It has started. 36,000 elite Ukrainian soldiers enter the battle and leave absolutely no chances to Russians. And as a result of this, a key city in the south is already liberated and the first line of defense of Russians is breached. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's get straight to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. So, you probably already know the representative of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia, Maria Zakharova, who is known for her outrageous and ridiculous statements. So recently in her interview she said that Ukrainians are very jealous of Russians because they hate Zelensky and in fact they would love to have a president like Putin. I mean, there is simply, it's not even in another universe, it's not even thousands of universes where I see this happening or Ukrainians desiring for a president like Putin, but this is what she said. I can only guess what's the percentage of Ukrainians who actually want President Putin as their main president. Probably somewhere between 0% and 0%. Oh, and by the way, speaking about percentages, I just recently noticed that 56% of you guys watching these videos are not subscribed. And I'm very puzzled. So, if you want to please continue receiving such daily updates, can you please go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel. Don't worry, don't be afraid, every single one of you is welcome here. And also, the weekend is right here, so please feel free to follow me on Instagram, the link is down below. Now let's talk about the end of a dream vacation for Sergei Shoigu in North Korea. I would not ever imagine that I can say these words in one sentence, but here you go. Then we're gonna quickly talk about the attacks against the territory of Russia, quick update from the east, before finally moving to the south of Ukraine, where Ukrainians finally achieved a significant progress, breached the first lines of defenses of Russians with the help of highly trained soldiers by the West. And so yes, speaking about Shoigu, in his last day of visit to North Korea, he participated in the military parade, which he, I would say, thoroughly enjoyed. But then, unfortunately, everything good must end at some point, so he was forced to leave, most likely his dream country. And I do not see this bright and white smile anymore. Well, he had his portion of fun, so now back to reality, back to Russia, under the regime of Putin. But yes, okay, now just a couple of quick words about the Western military support, literally just two quick things. And then we'll move to the east and talk about the attacks against Russia. And first of all, according to the US representatives, American Abrams tanks will be delivered to Ukraine approximately in September. They'll be first sent to Germany for some repairs and then transferred finally to Ukraine. And speaking about Germany, this country prepares yet another military support package, which will consist mainly of drones and then also Bergen Panzers and Gepards. And that's pretty much it. See, told you it will be very quick. Okay, now as promised, let's go to the east of Ukraine before moving to the south of the country. And just first of all, we have to make a stop in the Russian territory because recently there has been allegedly a missile attack in Taganrog. And according to the Russian propaganda, this was obviously the direct target by Ukrainians, and then this missile was intercepted by Russian air defense, and so it fell right in the middle of the city center. But then, as we move a little bit to the east, yet another reportedly missile has been spotted producing very loud noises in Rostov. But wait, there is more, because as we go to the capital of Russia, Moscow, a very small drone, as you can see from this picture, has been intercepted by brave Russian air defense system. And I mean, just take a look at this, how small it is. But Russians did the entire investigation, trying to figure out whether it was carrying some massive explosives or not. Most likely this was just Kid playing with his new toy, and now he is pretty sad, because his present is destroyed by Russians. And then, as you go to temporarily occupied territory by Russians, specifically the city in Donetsk region called Shakhtersk, a local oil base has been spontaneously, as always, caught on fire. All the additional photos and videos from different angles of these incidents will be available on my Patreon, the link is down below. And to make things even worse for Russians, if you remember, for the last several days they've spent so much effort trying to advance next to Svatove, And well, as we take a look at this map which shows us the change in territorial control, we can see that in fact they actually lost their captured territory to the south of Novoyegorivka. Then we go to Bakhmut itself, and according to the general of Ukrainian army, Alexander Syrskyi, the enemy is clinching literally to every centimeter of this land. But Ukrainians, slowly but surely, they do gradually advance, which exhausts Russian forces defending Bakhmut a lot, and pretty much they're at the brink of being completely demoralized and just starting to run away, because they do not see any prospects in continuing defending Bakhmut. And then, as you can see once again from this map, Russians recaptured just a little bit of land to the west of Klishchiivka, but going down more to the south, you can see that Ukrainians advanced a little bit closer to Kurdyumivka. And at the same time, reportedly, Ukrainians were able to destroy several pieces of self-propelled artillery equipment of Russians located in Zaitsevo. And just overall, a total of 1 command post, 1 concentration of Russian forces, 5 artillery units, 1 fuel depot, and 1 electronic warfare system of Russians had been destroyed by Ukrainians in the last 24 hours alone. But okay, and now let's go to the main point of the video, the south of Ukraine, where first of all, according to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, the main combat activities as always are happening in between Zaporozhye and Donetsk front lines, and then also in western Zaporozhye region. And just a pretty interesting statistic here, since the beginning of this war, particularly since attacks against Crimean Peninsula started, this month of July 2023 has been the most effective by Ukrainians, totaling approximately 11 attacks against Peninsula. But now, back to Zaporozhye front lines, where in the last several days, Ukrainians, according to the Western military experts and media, were able to achieve significant results, mainly next to Robotyne, which, as you can see from this map, they did advance a little bit more to the east of this city. But what is most importantly, they were finally able to breach the first line of defenses of Russians. And even the Russian propagandists themselves, they published this video, where a Ukrainian armored vehicle approaches pretty much right next to these so-called dragon teeth defense structures, which to be honest in the past proved to be very ineffective. But that's not the main point. The main thing here is that Russians, they put so much effort in constructing this first line of defense. They thought Ukrainians will not be able to breach them anytime in the near future, and Ukrainians did it within a 1 month or even less of active phase of this now new counteroffensive. And this was not the only major success of Ukrainians recently, because as we go a little bit more to the east, to the border between Zaporozhye and Donetsk, Ukrainians were able to finally liberate a major city in the south called Staromayorsk, as you can see already confirmed by this map. And Ukrainians at the same time even already published a video from this liberated settlement, which pretty much confirms that yes, they re-established the full control over Staromayorsk. But unfortunately, as with every city previously liberated from Russians, they left it in complete ruins. So once again, I have no idea why Russians claim that they're protecting and saving Ukrainians from Ukrainians, and then every single time they leave a city, it is pretty much non-existent anymore. But yes, the main thing is that this key city in the south is finally fully liberated. And just once again, if you want to see this full video of this victorious event, just please go ahead and check my Patreon. The link is down below and there's still 1 week of free access. But it does not end here. Yes, Ukrainians already liberated Staromayorsk, where was the first line of defense of Russians, and now the next goal of Ukrainians will be to advance and to recapture Staromlynivka, where reportedly, according to Ukrainian sources, is located already the second line of defenses of Russians, which once again is not even close to be as prepared and well constructed as the first one, which basically means in case Ukrainians do not stop here and accelerate their counteroffensive, recapturing this city and breaching already the second line of defense will be way easier. And well, guess what? Recently, the Russian propaganda intensified their statements about complete failure of Ukrainian counteroffensive, which is one of the earliest signs, if you remember from the past, is that Russians, they do feel threatened, they do feel unprotected, and they do acknowledge the danger of Ukrainian counteroffensive. Because after all, one of the major contributing factors to this already existing success of Ukrainian counteroffensive is that 36,000 approximately Ukrainian soldiers from the reserves already joined the front lines, and these are elite fighters who have been trained by the Western allies and NATO countries, and now they're pretty much fresh, combat ready, and they're desiring revenge and redemption. And obviously, these Ukrainian fresh soldiers are fighting way more effectively than their Russian counterparts. They are using effectively combat vehicles and artillery to support their advancement, and pretty much as soon as they get the pace going, they will be unstoppable. And it is pretty much a widely accepted fact that breaching the first line of defense will be an extremely complicated task, because this is something what Russians have been constructing for the last several months, in addition to extensive minefields. But as you can see already next to Robotyne and Staromayorsky, Ukrainians already achieved success in these areas, breached the first line of defense, and are starting to approach to the second one. And yes, just like I mentioned previously, it is pretty much a common sense, and now that it is confirmed by the Western officials, that it is time for Ukrainians to accelerate the pace, not to slow down and to keep going, because right now Ukrainians are able to seize this momentum and pretty much make their advancement unstoppable, liberating massive territories, just like it happened last year in Kharkiv and Kherson. This will be a truly massive and probably table-turning event in this war. And just once again, if you don't want to miss it, consider subscribing. Please consider subscribing to my channel. It only takes one click. The absolutely best way to support my work will be through my Patreon. You can also become my channel member or simply use a PayPal link. Everything can be found to the right and down below. Thank you so much for your attention, товарищи. Please follow me on Instagram. Beware there are scammers in the comments, and see you on Tuesday.